Good morning to you, and thank you so much for finding time to be with us this day. My name is Miriam Mugutu. The show is Kenya and Africa at a glance. We'll start with news making headlines across the country, and then we shall move over towards the end of the show to other news making headlines across the continent. As we know right now, the ousting of President of Burkina Faso is something that is breaking news in the continent. It has been confirmed. So later on at the tail end of the show, we shall give you the latest on what is happening there in the West African country. I think troubling times, as we've seen, a couple of countries they are still reeling from coups, Guinea, Mali, and so there's so much to talk about. And also, I think perhaps what is the sign, what is really going on is democracy on trial there in West Africa. So we shall look at that. And of course, that stampede that happened in Cameroon in one of the games, the AFCON games are continuing, and there is a stampede that happened that claimed several lives. So we shall look at that and much more in other African stories towards the end of the show. But for right now, let me bring you the latest news headlines from Kenya. And we start with the Star newspaper. Musalia twists to Ruto running mate. DP faces dilemma on appeasing ANC without jeopardizing Mount Kenya block. The story is on page 4 and 5 on the Star newspaper. And love triangle linked to police couple murder and suicide. You'll find that there an ex-NYS serviceman, makes. All right, I think I've lost that, but that is what we have on the Standard newspaper this morning. So we turn our attention to the Standard newspaper, and the main headline on the Standard newspaper: we will reveal deal with Mudavadi. Deputy President's allies endorse ANC Ford Kenya pact as he pledges to make public details of agreement. Kalonzo accuses Mudavadi of betrayal as ANC boss reveals state was pushing One Kenya alliance principles to back Raila, and Western leaders say move suicidal. Atoli comes out guns blazing. I think that was expected. It was just a matter of time. And as Dr. Matanga said here yesterday, he was just on Sunday, he was just, perhaps regrouping his thoughts. And yesterday he made known what he thinks about that new political relationship between Musalia Mudavadi ANC's party and UDA of Deputy President William Ruto. Kalonzo backs Chebukati in server's case. Activist has asked judge to stop IEBC boss from overseeing August elections for failing to open servers in 2017 presidential contest. And this is something that has been on the courts, and there's no telling if at all this is something that will continue holding the IEBC and might lead to affecting our next general election. The story is on page 14, and we know that this Kenyan has been seeking for Chebukati to be removed over contempt of court. So you'll find that on the Standard newspaper. Untapped wealth where money grows on trees. That is on page 33 of the business page there, and quoting the mountain. ODM leader Raila Odinga, also the Azimio la Umoja movement's presidential flag bearer, the pictorial there, with former Gatanga Member of Parliament Peter Kenneth, when they met local leaders from Murang'a yesterday to plan for Saturday's rally in the country. The leaders presented a list of demands they want Raila to address in return for their support in the August presidential election. The full story is on page 4 on the Standard newspaper. And then we head over to the Daily Nation, and how Ruto bagged Mudavadi's ANC. Deputy President William Ruto took advantage of the bitter exchange of words by NASA top leaders to woo Amani National Congress boss, and Ford Kenya's Moses Wetangula, allies of the three-party chief, said of the new alliance, whose announcement on Sunday took many by surprise. The story is on page 4 and 5. That is a continuing story over that earthquake that happened in the country on Sunday. Now, no, the COVID vaccine will not affect your fertility. That is on page 3. And Murithi, why I fell out with Deputy President, that is Laikipia Governor, who says he talks to the Daily Nation, and he said they fell out after they deferred when the Deputy President William Ruto asked him to dissolve PNU, and of course he refused, and other parties from Mount Kenya. So I think we will continue with our conversation on that and why ANC was, NC being dissolved was never a pre-requirement for them to join and work with the deputy president. So there it is. Raila meets Muranga leaders lobbying for Kenneth continues. That is on page 6. And court case gave KFC leeway to import chips. That is on page 12. Does sacked varsity boss hold fake PhD? Apparently, Masai Mara is back again on the spot after the academic papers of the man who has been running the institution for the last 2 years came into question. Apparently, he obtained his PhD in a university called Washington International University, February 15th, 2005, but his qualifications were questioned when it emerged that the purported university is not credited. All right, now that is something else. Okay, and so I'll just bring in Daniel Lusonga at this point, and then we'll just start with our conversation and, of course, other stories inside the newspaper that I'd like us to start with. Daniel Lusonga, thank you for joining us, and a very good morning to you.
Yes, sir. Very good morning to you, Miriam Ogutu. Good morning to our viewers here in Kenya, East Africa, and the rest of the world who are watching us this morning. It is my pleasure to be on the conversation.
Okay, and I know we do have a lot of politics to talk about, but there is a story that I think it was in one of the papers over the weekend. We did not get a chance to talk about it, obviously, because of the tsunami that was taking place. So that was given, priority. But there's something here that has to do with there you go, on page 8 of the Daily Nation. Matiang'i blames political violence on unfulfilled pledges and handouts. The political violence being witnessed in parts of the country is due to unfulfilled promises and voter bribery. Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i has said, with political temperatures rising, this is the latest headache for security agencies as the August 9th general election approaches. It's due to false promises and the bribery going on around the country, ferrying of people from one venue to another, bribing them in the process, mismanaging them, causing conflict, Dr. Matiang'i said yesterday after chairing this year's first security meeting on the elections. And I know this is something that we've been talking about, and before we've seen the chaos. And I think there was a story of several cases, I think over the weekend, it must have been the Daily Nation that highlighted some of the cases where even politicians in those areas, these political leaders go and leave promises and they don't get to fulfill these promises. So the leaders in that area get in trouble because the residents, when you go there and say, I'll give this group of people, say 3 million Kenya shillings or 2 million, the residents there assume that you've been left with that money, which a lot of cases that is not the case. So this is becoming another matter of security. Daniel Wasonga, what is really going on and how can this be salvaged?
Thank you so much, Miriam. And of course, it is not politicians, but we have to name the donkey by its name. And this is William Ruto, who has been going around telling residents of various localities that he has been visiting that I'm going to leave 2 million with your MP. I'm going to leave this amount of money with your governor. I'm going to leave this amount of money with your senator. I'm going to give your MCA this amount of money. And there was a certain local daily which say that people, leaders, especially in Mount Kenya, are quietly decamping from UDA due to unfulfilled promises. And one such leader was Wainaina Wajango, who is a Thika Town MP, who is seeking to vie for Kiambu governor. And that was because the DP went to Kiambu and promised a certain group around 3 million or maybe 2 million. And he never gave the money. And he told the people that he was going to give it through Wainaina. We have one of the MPs in Muranga called Wamaua. He also decamped to Azimio la Umoja simply because there is a group which was promised 1.5 million. But the DP did not give out the money. But regardless of the fact that he promised the money, to give the money through the MP. So you realize that he put these people in jeopardy. Latest being also in Kuria East, the MP had to lock himself in the house because the DP promised some young people 2 million through their MP, which he did not give out. And therefore, the MP had to hide because people are looking for him, because they believed the DP had given him money, and therefore they wanted to get these particular money. So actually, it is chaos, Miriam. And I remember a while ago, Dr. Matsanga just warned when the DP was starting to give out money. We don't know if it was from his pockets or maybe through the MPs once again, the usual hoodwinking. But he warned, this money is going to bring chaos. Because if you tell young people, we have left 2 million Kenyan shillings, and yet in reality, you haven't left 2 million, you haven't left even a penny, then they're going to attack the group that they think that the money was left to. So that is what happened in Kondele. That was even what happened in Jacaranda the other day. So to me, I believe Matiang'i is being very sincere, because these are cabinet secretary for interior. These are cabinet secretary who receives intelligence briefs on a daily basis. He knows whatever happens, even in the hinterland, in the most remote village in this country, and therefore he's privy to all these that is happening across the political divide. And to me, I believe if that is anything to go by, then we are currently walking our country into a very, very dangerous thicket. And William Ruto has to be controlled. He should stop doing whatever he's doing, because he will soon plunge the country into chaos, not with his opponents, but his own supporters who are believing that our leaders given this and this amount of money to these and particular individuals which is not actually getting to us, and therefore they'll start actually attacking their own people, and that will cause chaos across the country. So to me, I believe that is a very, very big security threat to this country if he continues in such a particular direction, owing to the fact that, Miriam, we are yet even to start now the real campaigns for the August polls. I submit.
Very well, thank you. Now, this is what Dr. Matiang'i said, that is the Cabinet Secretary for Interior here in Kenya. I know sometimes we are dealing with the death of decency in the conduct of some of our political leaders, but we ask them to be responsible and conduct themselves decently. And of course, security agencies who will be meeting monthly to examine the state of the campaigns since December last year. Only 4 incidents of violence have been reported in the relation to election campaigns. One was in Busia, whose suspects are in court, while 3 others involved conflict resulting from bribery of supporters. And the incidents listed by the United Democratic Alliance Party in their January 17th letter to President Kenyatta, where they alleged the state's hand in the violence experienced in some of their campaigns, are yet to be reported to any police station. So, all right, so we know that letter that UDA wrote, of course, raising concerns of, the chaos we saw at their rally in Jacaranda a few days ago, and they wrote to the ICC, they wrote to President Kenyatta, they wrote to several other officers. But now from this story, they did not file, their complaints with the police station, which it is the police who is supposed to be taking care of these cases.
Yes, Miriam, and of course, you remember there's this expose by the former Nairobi governor, Mike Mbuvi Sonko, who said that during a certain time in the run-up to 2017 general election, when NASA was holding a rally at Uhuru Park, William Ruto in particular called the governor and asked him if he could get a few gentlemen, young men, to be able to affect mob justice along Uhuru Highway. And when Sonko brought the boys, they went to the to the streets, and they were able to break some few cars, beat a few people, and all that. And then whatever followed now was for the leaders of the Jubilee Party, especially those aligned to the deputy president, going out on press conferences and condemning this violence and terming Raila Odinga as an emblem of violence and all that. So these are tactics that William Ruto has been employing since time immemorial. This is something that is so much emblematic to his brand of politics. So to me, I believe this is self-sponsored violence. He actually been positioning these people to attack him during his campaign rallies, so that he is able to paint Raila Odinga in bad light, and also he's able to gain some sympathy votes from people who think that he's being attacked unfairly. You remember the other time when he was in Kondele, he was briefed by the intelligence agencies that there was likelihood of violence occurring in that particular meeting. And he was told, regardless of the fact that he had almost done 90% of the rallies he was supposed to do in Kisumu, and actually the Kondele one was just at the tail end. He was told not to go there, but he insisted on going there. Did he know anything that the security officers did not know? Why would he insist going at a place where our intelligence officers have told him this is not the safest place you could go? Just finish here and then maybe go to other places in Nyanza. So to me, I believe William Ruto he could be planning these chaos in his own rallies, considering the fact that Miriam, you've talked about he's not recording statements with the police. I remember even NASA, a coalition, when it was the opposition of the day, whenever such things could happen, they will report, first of all, with the police, and they will actually make now their grievances known, and they will go ahead even to name the culprit so that arrests are made. So this one for William Ruto, I believe it is something which is far-fetched, but the violence, I believe so strongly that it is actually self-planned and self-inflicted. And therefore, that is why our security agencies soon have to open a file and investigate who is sponsoring this violence in William Ruto's camp and be able to bring culprits to book. Miriam, in politics, there's a lot of intrigue. Towards any presidential election or general election, you will see even people kidnapping themselves for sympathy purposes. It happened even in my constituency way back in 2007. It happened in 1997 in Gatundu South, where Moses Kuria was the chief campaigner of this particular individual who was vying against President Uhuru Kenyatta. And the guy kidnapped himself, and before you knew it, a story was out there that Moi, with the former First family, had kidnapped this innocent guy. Therefore, the people of Gatundu South had no otherwise than to give him the sympathy votes. So this is something that happened so much. Even the current Kiamba MP, Kawanjiku, there was a time he kidnapped himself. So we need to investigate where this violence is coming from. And they say, Kikulacho kingwoni mwako. So it must be coming from the deputy president's inner circle. He must be planning this violence through his own lieutenant so that he paints Raila Odinga in bad light. They say the apple does not fall far away from the tree. And Mike Sonko told us who the deputy president is, how he plans violence, and how he uses it to his advantage. So I'm not perturbed, Miriam, about that.
Very well, and I want us to move on from this matter, but I only have perhaps two questions, and maybe we'll attempt to answer both at the same time, one at a time, rather. And one is, these members of parliament who have been affected by these unfulfilled promises, from the deputy president who has had to suffer the consequences. One, why can't they come out and speak out and say, hey, this is not right? Why are they quiet? And the second, well, CS Matiang'i has now told us that the security committee will be meeting every once a month, of course, as we gear up towards the preparation of the next election. Deputy President is supposed to be a member of the Security Council in this country. Perhaps it's about time he started joining this meeting so that he is updated and he raises his concern in this security agency. Don't you think?
First of all, these MPs cannot raise a concern maybe against the deputy president because of what they deem him. They look at him like a demigod. Some of them have actually eaten from the same pot with the deputy president when he was at the top of the glory of government. So therefore, it is a bit, they say you cannot speak while having food in your mouth. So literally, I believe these are people who have eaten with the deputy president in as much as they are being even subjected to that kind of humiliation and torture. You saw the other day Senator Irugu Kangata of Murang'a being told that there is Akuna governor of 40,000 and there's nothing he could do. He was really, really humiliated. So that is the kind of thing that is happening in UDA. But very, very few people are bold enough to come out. So that is why you are seeing the kind of Wainaina Wajango and Maua just decamping quietly without making any fuss about it, because they fear, first of all, the repercussions, of maybe the past dalliance they had with the deputy president. And secondly, maybe they fear their support maybe could plummet in a certain way. Number two, on the second question, I believe that the deputy president is the most hypocritical politician in this country. Remember, at the height of of his downfall with the president, he used to tell people that they are in very, very good terms with the president. The president is his friend. They talk on a daily basis. But then you would wonder, if you talk with the president on a daily basis, why then go bash him in the political rallies and complain about some cabinet secretary who are witch hunting you, even going to an extent of saying that some cabinet secretaries are sitting to plot your assassination? So to me, I believe William Ruto has never been sincere, because he will talk about devolution. He will talk about getting money to the bottom of the society through the bottom-up approach, but yet he sits on the strongest arm of the devolved function in government, where he chairs the devolution caucus with the 47 governors, and he never attends that particular meeting from that particular caucus to be able to champion for whatever needs to go to mashinani. So you really wonder, is this a person who really harbors the interest of the hustlers that he really claims to do? So this is the same thing that has been happening with his position in the National Security Council. So to me, I believe William Ruto is not serious about whatever he claims, even when sometimes he claims that his camp is being unfairly targeted. But he has the capacity. He's the deputy president. He could go and face the president and tell him whatever grievances his side has. He could go into this particular committee with Fred Matiang'i and be able to evaluate how to improve the security situation. But Miriam, I would really like to ask you, and also ask our viewers, when was the last time they saw Deputy President William Ruto seated at his Harambee House Annex office serving the people of Kenya? I believe that was way back in 2017. So therefore, these are ghost workers who have been earning money for work not done. And therefore, if you ask him about matters security committee, if you ask him about matters even devolution, the last time he had a meeting with that particular committee was sometime last year, and only 10 governors attended, because also the governors knew this person has not been holding these meetings for over 3 years now. Why call us at this particular moment? Why try to pretend that he really cares about devolution when he does not really care? So this is a person who is not interested really in helping even the president with his legacy. That is why he do not attend such a particular meeting. And therefore, Miriam, asking him maybe even to give you a clue of whatever security situation is in the country, whereas he actually has the obligation to, will be a tall order. And therefore, Miriam, Kenyans should not even hope maybe that William Ruto will be in such a position. I submit.
Very well, thank you. And there is an exclusive interview that the Daily Nation has done with the Laikipia Governor Ruto. We will not get so much into the details of it, but I'll just read what we have on the headline here, the front page of the Daily Nation. In the first of a two-part series, Laikipia Governor Ruto talks about how he defied with Deputy President William Ruto over the dissolution of PNU and his appointment as chairperson of ODM leader Raila Odinga's campaign board. Of course, right now he is the chairperson of ODM's leader, campaign board. But initially he was working with the deputy president, and from now what we're finding out is the reason they fell out. The DP had asked him, and that I think is a matter of public knowledge, to fold up a PNU and dissolve the party and join, UDA. But now ANC over the weekend seems to now be working on a working agreement with UDA, and there are no preconditions, or even nobody's asking ANC to fold up. So how do you think does this, give Ruto a good reason as to why perhaps he even stopped working with the deputy president, and the double standards that I think we've been talking about, and now see this is another good example of perhaps different strokes for different folks when it comes to UDA and how he chooses to associate with other political parties?
First and foremost, Miriam, if you want to know the seriousness of any presidential candidate, look at the people that they put in their strategic campaign team. And that's said and done. We can compare whatever William Ruto has and Raila Odinga has. You can see the kind of people William Ruto is getting, around himself, the likes of Ndindi Nyoro, the likes of Rigathi Gachagua, the likes of Kimani Ichung'wah, and all that. But when you look at people like Ruto Mureithi, Peter Kenneth, like the Nakuru governor, Liki Nyanjui, these are people who have been even in the corporate world. These are managers. These are people of high education qualification. These are people who can be able to sit in a room and be able to draft a strategy based on knowledge and also analytical data, and be able to actually give you a workable plan to be able to win an election. Not the likes of Ndindi Nyoro, not the likes of Rigathi Gachagua and Kimani Ichung'wah and Kimani Ngunjiri, mere noisemakers who just go there in the rallies and shout about anything. Yesterday, you saw UDA made a very, very strategic change where they brought Hussein Mohammed, the former Citizen TV anchor, to be the director of communication. Why didn't they settle on Dennis Itumbi? Because some positions actually require you to have a person who has some academic qualifications, a person who will actually be able to draw analytical data using knowledge and all that to be able to bring out a strategy. So to me, I believe Ruto Mureithi will not have fitted well in UDA. UDA is a place where people with brains actually take the back bench, and people who cannot chew gum on one side and be able to walk on the other are they actually people who are on the forefront, like Oscar Sudi, who the deputy president trusts even more even than Kipchumba Murkomen, who is a lawyer. So you really wonder, does this person really value intellectualism? So to me, I believe they will not have worked together in the first instance. Secondly, Ruto Mureithi will not have folded PNU party, owing to the fact that even in Laikipia, this is a guy who vied as an independent candidate, and he was not even supported even by the Jubilee party leaders, but he went all the way to win this particular seat against a Jubilee candidate who people thought that he was a strong candidate. And I remember he's President Mwai Kibaki's nephew. And I remember in a certain burial, I don't know who it was, but I remember Mwai Kibaki saying that na hapa Laikipia pia tutapita. So, and people are wondering, why does the former president, why is he saying that tutapita, and yet the candidate that he's supporting is not even in Jubilee and does not have the party certificate and the blessings. And only for this guy to come up and surprise the people by winning this Laikipia gubernatorial seat. In fact, he was not among the people that who were even maybe expected to be number one or number two. He was thought maybe he would be third or fourth. So this is a very, very intelligent guy, a very, very competent to the cause. So if you see him fall out with the deputy president in matters principle, in matters whether to fold a party or not, then there's a big, big, big problem. And that is the major problem that Mount Kenya leaders have with William Ruto. William Ruto does not go for the top cream of the Mount Kenya region. He rather chooses to take stooges, puppets who can be easily controlled. And that is why even during the Jubilee Party nominations in 2017, it is perceived that William Ruto actually engineered the downfall of key Mount Kenya leaders who are perceived maybe to be strong enough, who will be headstrong to actually bring trouble to his 2022 presidential bid. Look at the people who actually went home from Mount Kenya. We have the likes of Jamle Kamau, who was a very, very good friend to Uhuru Kenyatta. People like Ken Bigitura, people like Ndungi Dhinji, people like Kabando, people like William Kabogo, people like Priscilla Kabi, and all those, And look at the people who were actually nominated to replace them. We have Ndindi Nyoro. We have, we have very, 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 very awkward people in Mount Kenya who came on board. MPs who cannot even debate in parliament. Those are the people that who are singing William Ruto today as we head to the elections. Those are people who are telling the people of Mount Kenya we can go to William Ruto, support him unconditionally, whether he gives us the deputy president or not. We do not care about that, so long as we make William Ruto the fifth president of Kenya, because that is what President Uhuru Kenyatta promised William Ruto. That is why you see women representative Purity Ngirishi saying that why do we people of Mount Kenya go to William Ruto with our stomachs, whereas other people are going there with their own vehicles of negotiation, which are political parties? And that is why I believe Governor Nderitu Mureithi disagrees with William Ruto, because he's not foolish. He knows if he goes there with his stomach alone, without any party vehicle to negotiate with William Ruto, they might as well end up getting nothing from that particular kind of deal. I submit.
All right, thank you so much. And I think the conversation will not be complete if you don't look at the still trending political story in Kenya since Sunday, and that has to do with Mudavadi. And page 5 of the Daily Nation, there's a story here that has a title of Signs: Mudavadi will not be in State House race. ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi will not be on the presidential ballot, but will instead back Deputy President William Ruto and running mate selected from Mount Kenya region. Sources close to the duo have disclosed. DP Ruto and Mr. Mudavadi have kept close to their chest the deal that brought together ANC and the United Democratic Alliance, even as focus shifts from Sunday declaration to details of the new political alliance that includes Ford Kenya. ANC Secretary General Samuel Gikuru yesterday declined to disclose details of the political deal, stating that discussions between the three parties are still ongoing. And we know the reason why Musalia Mudavadi fell out with One Kenya Alliance is because he really wanted to be the flag bearer, but now he's working. And this talks, I was reading through a story here in one of the papers, that this talks actually started 2 years ago. So he's been working with other leaders in One Kenya Alliance and deceiving them, you know, that he's together with them. But now from what we're seeing and now what is playing out now, you know, he's been doing and having deals and talks behind his other colleagues from the One Kenya Alliance. And in One Kenya Alliance, he wanted to be the flag bearer. And now in his new association with the UDA, from the story that we're reading this morning, that the Daily Nation is saying it has substantiated, it is believed that he will support the deputy president. And of course, the deputy president is said that he will be picking, you know, a deputy president from the Mount Kenya region. I think that has been expected. I mean, this is all confusing, because if he, up to yesterday, I saw an interview that he did on KTN. He was still insisting that he will be running as a president, and I was just sitting there and thinking, what is it? What is going on? Why can't he have just the courage to say, I will be supporting the deputy president, instead of taking his supporters and everybody else in circles? Well, we can see from what he's saying, what he is not telling us. Can't he just have the courage to speak his truth?
Yes, Miriam, I really like to reiterate whatever I've been saying in my own personal opinion, that the ANC Secretary General Simon Gikuru is a very, very clueless fella, and he does not even understand where his party leader stands. You remember the other day when Cleophas Malala was holding a press, and he said, he hinted towards Musalia going to UDA and working with William Ruto. He came out clearly, and he actually hurriedly drafted later a statement posting together with his photo on ANC's official Facebook page and Twitter handles, saying that Musalia Mudavadi can never work and will never work with those who are actually implicated in corruption. That was the Secretary General. And I remember at that particular time, I had talked to one of my informers in ANC, and they told me whatever Cleophas Malala said is what Musalia Mudavadi actually believes and says out there, where we have no, on the sidelines. Also, the other day, when Cleophas Malala invited William Ruto to his event in Mumias during the 31st of last year, ANC actually drafted a very long letter disassociating themselves from that particular dalliance between Cleophas Malala, which they termed the activities of the Kakamega senator. And then I told people, this is the thought, just weird imaginations of the Secretary General. Musalia Mudavadi is behind whatever Cleophas Malala is doing. And then he went further to attend a rally, a UDA rally in Eldoret. Again, ANC held a presser to disown Malala, but little did they know that he was actually the mouthpiece of Musalia Mudavadi. And true to it, Miriam, like you said, Musalia Mudavadi entered into a deal with William Ruto more than 2 years ago. Whatever happened is this. Before the 2017 general election, Musalia Mudavadi was living a very humble life in Riverside here in Nairobi, you understand? And what happened is that William Ruto had started already campaigning. You know, even in 2016, William Ruto, in as much as they were campaigning for President Uhuru's second term, William Ruto was actually also positioning himself, also saying in the same campaign rally that let us vote for President Uhuru Kenyatta, and then in 2022, you're going to give me as the president. So in essence, he had already started marshalling up people to support his 2022 presidential bid. And immediately after the 2017 polls, William Ruto approached Musalia Mudavadi, and the grapevine has it that he gave Musalia Mudavadi 300 million to be able to build a house, because when he was asked what problem he had, he said he wanted to move. He had a plot in Karen, and he wanted to move out and be able to settle there. So this money was extended to him. He went and constructed the house. The house was complete around 2020, towards the end of 2019, thereabout, or maybe the beginning of 2020. And that is how it all started, Miriam. We had even people from Musalia Mudavadi's team, the likes of Barack Mluka, the likes of Eliud Owalo, moving from ANC to UDA in anticipation that these parties were actually going to work together to form a much bigger party. So when now this was expected to happen, Mudavadi somehow developed some cold feet, because every other NASA core principle was actually against working with William Ruto. And let me tell you for a fact, Miriam, one thing about Musalia Mudavadi. He's the most dishonest politician you can ever meet on earth. Because Musalia Mudavadi, just 3 weeks ago, he denied ever even meeting William Ruto, and he denied even having a thought of working with William Ruto. The People Daily newspaper has it, where he has a whole interview on the newspaper, talking on the reasons why he may never work with William Ruto while he's still alive in this world. Just the other week, he dismissed, and there's this famous clip where he actually trashes the bottom-up narrative, holding a bottle of water, saying that if the bottom-up approach has to be in reality, then it means they're actually draining the entire economy and taking it into their own pockets. So this is a very, very dishonest fella, and he has been in a working agreement with William Ruto for the past 2 years, and ANC actually has been sponsored by UDA since time immemorial, from even as early as 2015, 2016. You remember Boni Halwale was actually being sponsored by William Ruto. He was given, I think, also to a tune of 300 million. Was it not for his many debts, he would be having a lot of money right now, but all that money sunk into the debts that he had accumulated over the years. So you realize that even someone like Cleophas Malala, his house was constructed by William Ruto. That is very, very much on record by the former CS Sports, Rashida Chesa, who was the conduit of that money which was coming from the deputy president. So you realize that the entire ANC party was in an unholy alliance with William Ruto since 2015, 2016. And this is from all the elected leaders, including the party leader, Miriam. I submit.
Okay, thank you so much. And I think we'll put a stop to the local news this morning, but of course we shall revisit that at top of the hour. For the remaining 10 minutes, I'd like to bring us quickly with what else is happening in the continent. As I mentioned there has been a coup in Burkina Faso, and the latest is that the mutinous troops in restive Burkina Faso arrested President Roch Kabore on Monday and detained him in army barracks a day after staging an uprising, security sources told AFP. Soldiers at several army bases across the West African country rebelled on Sunday, demanding the sacking of the military top brass and more resources to fight a bloody jihadist insurgency. Later in the day, gunshots were heard near Kabore's private residence in the capital, Ouagadougou, and witnesses reported seeing a helicopter above it. President Kabore, the head of parliament, and the ministers are effectively in the hands of the soldiers of the Sanguale Mazi Lamizana barracks in the capital Ouagadougou, a security source said, with another source confirming the arrest. The situation was tense and confused in the capital. Their mobile internet had been cut on Sunday, making it difficult to verify rumors of a coup in progress. An AFP journalist said around 10 hooded troops had posted themselves in front of the national broadcaster RTB on Monday, but it was not immediately clear if they were from the mutineers or had been sent in by the government. Okay, and then what else is happening? In South Africa, the South African Army is investigating a fire that broke out at its main Air Force base on Sunday, just weeks after a blaze ripped through Parliament. The fire broke out around 7 p.m. at the storage section of the Waterkloof base in the capital, Pretoria. The Defense Forces said in a statement it was extinguished within an hour and no structural damage was reported. And then we head over to Libya, where Libya's interim Prime Minister Abdul Hamid Deiba has called for a constitution to be established before holding delayed presidential and parliamentary elections. No more than ever, we need a constitution that protects the country and its citizens and that governs the elections. Deiba said Libya collapsed into years of violence after the 2011 overthrow and killing of dictator Muammar Gaddafi. So, and I think as something else from Rwanda, a Rwandan prosecutor yesterday sought a life sentence for Paul Rusesabagina, who was portrayed in the movie Hotel Rwanda, sheltering hundreds of people during the 1994 genocide instead of an existing 25-year term. Mr. Rusesabagina, 67, was convicted in September on 8 terrorism charges related to the activities of an organization opposed to President Paul Kagame's rule and is being held in a Rwandan prison. He has denied all the charges and refused to take part in the trial, which he and his supporters denounced as a politically motivated sham. He was not in court in Kigali yesterday to hear the prosecution begin its appeal against his sentence, opting to remain in prison. We don't agree with the decision to give Rusesabagina a 25-year-old sentence instead of a life imprisonment, public prosecutor Jean-Pierre Habanurema told the court. So that is another case that has been ongoing, and other stories from across the continent. But what I'd like us to talk about is the situation quickly in Burkina Faso. President Roch Kabore right now is under detention, and this is just the latest country from West Africa to experience a coup, and also another country that is fraught with extremist activities and jihadism. And remember, when President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta was being ousted, the insecurity is one of the key reasons that they said led them to remove President Keïta because he could not address that very well. And since then, we've seen that the army does not want to leave power. They said they are, trying to put proper foundations for the country. We don't know how that is going. Elections were supposed to take place this year, next month. Of course, that is cancelled, and the army there has asked for 5 years. And of course, if you see the kind of countries that have come in from outside the continent to even help them in this transition, then you will know that perhaps that ousting had other interest behind it, that perhaps pushed it. I don't know. But now the latest casualty is President Roch of Burkina Faso. Is democracy under trial in Africa?
Thank you, Miriam. And of course, this coup in Burkina Faso has a long history, and it all starts in the assassination of Thomas Sankara back in the day. And yesterday, remember, we discussed even the trial of his former comrade, Kampore. And of course, this is a country which perhaps has not healed from its past. There has been no truth, reconciliation, and maybe the redemption strategy in forging a peaceful future going ahead. So therefore, the ghost of the past actually keeps on coming back to haunt the nation. Whenever you see the insecurity in a nation, it means that we do have a section of citizens who are not quite satisfied with the government of the day, or maybe they do not feel included in the leadership of the day after all. So these coups are just maybe a tip of the iceberg. But the bigger problem underlies whatever that is not seen to the other international community, or maybe those who do not live in that particular country, or those who are not in the leadership of the country. So to me, I believe when you see the military asked to continue holding onto power for more than 5 years, there is a very, very deep leadership issue in that particular country. And that is based on my thought or assumption that in any particular country, when you see the military now come and take up leadership, meddle in the civilian leadership, they know that the leadership of the day has failed. Today in Kenya, if it was to be said that the political leadership has failed in actually governing the country and being able to deliver and attend to the needs of the people of Kenya, the military will step in. That is what the military is supposed to do in any other country or democracy. So to me, I think in Burkina Faso, democracy is not on trial. These are problems that are facing this particular country. But since there's no one who can be able to go down there and be able to bring these people on the table and be able to talk and address even historical problems that the people of Burkina Faso have, and be able to have these matters settled, I believe we shall continue having these coups, and the generals might even, another general might even emerge and maybe topple the current regime that has actually taken power just the other day. So to me, I believe they have to sit down and be able to address their problems. Here is where we employ what Dr. Masanga calls the redemption strategy. Because remember, when Thomas Sankara was killed, the nation was divided. And for a divided nation, you can only hold it together as long as you can. Once your gas and energy goes out, runs out like Campore, then the nation will crumble again. And that is what is happening. Once Campore was ousted, was out of power, it meant that these other people came into power, the old wounds again came into play, and therefore there's no way the country will have stayed united. So Miriam, to me, I believe this is just the beginning. We might have another coup coming in Burkina Faso again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yes, as you rightfully there mentioned, even the president that replaced the president that was assassinated, I'm forgetting his name. Sankara, Thomas Sankara. His best friend, Blaise Compaoré, is a very good friend, and so they say that he was used by the Belgian and French forces to organize and orchestrate his assassination, as you've seen, when you read through history. So even him, he was removed. He was ousted after 27 years in power. And perhaps there, now with the starting of Sankara's murder trial last year, perhaps it might bring a few people in problems. So that could be one way of looking at it. Now, Burkina Faso is one of the poorest countries in West Africa, despite being a gold producer. Its army has suffered heavy losses at the hands of Islamist militants who control swathes of the country and have forced residents in those areas to abide by their harsh version of Islamic law. So we do have the issue of extremism here playing out, very, very clearly. The upheaval underscores the political consequences of the growing insurgency across the Sahel region, as we have already underscored. And of course, a spokesperson for the Mutiniers told journalists they were demanding appropriate resources and training for their fight against militants linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State. And this is what they've kept saying over and over. They're saying Burkina Faso has lost so many of its young military men and women in the fight against these Islamists, and the government does not seem to appreciate the magnitude of this fight, and for it to be allocated enough resources to enable its forces to fight successfully these extremist groups there in Burkina Faso and indeed in the Sahel region. But I don't want to bring France into it, because we know France has a good number of troops around the Sahel region, and we know it's pulling out of Mali. That's another story for another time. But is this reason legitimate? Or there are other things that are playing behind the scenes that you may not understand as per this moment?
Of course, Miriam, that could be the wider scheme to actually achieve the evil motives of those who are behind the instability in West Africa. And of course, you realize that this has been the oldest book, trick in the book. Let's say, for example, in Mozambique, how did Al-Shabaab actually find themselves in the midst of South Africa, who brought them in Mozambique? Who put them there? Who was financing their activities? Who was training them? Who was giving them the military uniforms and the equipment? So you realize that so we have countries like Qatar, we have countries like France, we have countries like even Netherlands or Belgium, which have actually been even also using some of these terror groups in terms of financing them or giving them ammunition, so that they cause instability in duly elected democratic governments or countries, and therefore give these countries a foray to getting into power, maybe installing their own puppets in these particular countries. So to me, I would be fast to dismiss this as a factor to what is happening in West Africa and Burkina Faso. So perhaps that could be the wider scheme of these foreign interferences that have always been the tactic of France when it comes to leadership wrangles in West Africa and getting their man into power. However, as it may be, Miriam, in the recent past, I see the military of most West African countries has been actually reluctant to be able to play to that particular trick by France, whereas you've seen most leaders being toppled from government. Their effort to actually install a puppet president has always hit a snag.
All right, thank you so much for that. And I think that marks the end of our show this morning. I was trying to just see if I could get the latest over the stampede that happened. And of course, there's also news that Malawi president has fired cabinet amid graft. Remember, when President Chakwera was elected, and I had issues, and I think, Daniel, we also talked about this, in the manner in which he chose his cabinet. There's another case, he chose a brother to hold one position and then a cousin on the other cabinet position, and a sister. It was just a whole family affair, and his very close confidants and friends. And now he's saying he has fired the whole cabinet due to a graft. This is amazing. He needed to learn that lesson. Sometimes when you need to put people to work, maybe your family and close friends might not be the right people to place there. Look for people who are qualified, to do this job. So I think we shall look at that in our subsequent conversation. I was just trying to see if I could get the latest over that stampede that happened in Cameroon. We know that the AFCON games are continuing there, and I don't seem to have that with me right now. So I think I'll bring it much later. Thank you so much for your time. We will give way now to the editor's memo, where we shall continue looking at some of the topics from that is making headline. Or that are making headline across Kenya this morning. My name is Miriam Ruto. Thank you so much, Daniel Wesonga. Don't go too far. We'll see you in a bit, and bye-bye for now.